better paver, it will be smooth as glass. So I think the fastest we've taken the car thus far is around 110 miles an hour through the tunnel, but that's it's a little scary right now. So probably in your trip you maybe go 40, 50 miles an hour, but this system is designed to do over 150 miles an hour through the tunnel. And I mean, would it be incredible if you could travel around LA, New York, DC, Chicago, Paris, London, anywhere at 150 miles an hour? That'd be phenomenal. I mean, traffic is soul destroying. It's like acid on the soul. It's horrible. We must go away. And I've lived in LA for 16 years, and traffic has gone from just like 7th level of hell to like the 8th level of hell, and you know, it's terrible. So this is I think finally there's something that I think could solve the goddamn traffic problem. Yeah, seriously, that's what you say in traffic and worse. So the thing is, like, why tunnels? You know, sometimes people say, what about like flying cars and all these other things? And what about mass transit? I want to be clear, we're not opposed to mass transit. We think mass transit is fine. Like, let's try every solution possible. But the thing about tunnels is that you can go through, you could go with a flying car, but there are some drawbacks to flying cars. They are essentially, it's a helicopter with wheels, and they make a lot of noise. There's a lot of wind force, and the probability of something falling on your head if there are a bunch of flying cars around is much higher than if there are not. So, but I think the great thing about tunnels is that there's no limit to how deep you can go. They're weatherproof. That's the other thing about flying cars. If there's like snow or rain or hurricane or something, suddenly you can't go anywhere. But tunnels are immune to weather. It does not matter if there's a tornado. It doesn't matter if there's like an ice storm. It doesn't matter what's going on above ground. If you're in a tunnel, you're safe and secure. The other thing is you can't see, hear, or feel the construction. When you ride the tunnel, you'll see the entrance that's basically in the backyard of a house. Okay, the neighbor of that house, when the boring machine broke through the other side, was watching TV. The neighbor did not even stop watching TV. Okay, that's how subtle it was. So you will not hear, see, or feel the tunnels being created. And unlike freeways or any kind of surface transit, it will not divide communities. You don't have to like basically railroad through communities. You can weave the boring system tunnel network into the fabric of a city without changing the character of the city. The city will still feel the same. You're not going to get in anyone's way. You're not going to obstruct anyone's view. You'll have this revolutionary transport system, and your city will still feel like your city. And layers, of course. Forgot to mention layers, plural. So what's the problem with tunnels? They usually take a very long time to build, and they're very expensive. So typically, a tunnel will take 3 to 6 months per mile. In some cases, it will take a year per mile. And they can cost up to $1 billion per mile. In fact, the LA subway extension that just got completed cost $2 billion for 2.5 miles. There was a subway extension in New York that I think cost $2 billion for a mile. So clearly something needs to be done to revolutionize tunneling technology. We need to be able to build tunnels way faster and for a hell of a lot less money. In fact, just to characterize it, the fastest tunneling machine in the world right now is 14 times slower than a snail. Okay, so when I say like, yeah, we're gonna have like this tunneling machine that can do 1 mile a week, we're not talking about the sandworms of Dune here, okay? It's still slow. It's just as fast as a snail. You will be able to escape it. All right. This is our snail. This is Gary the Sixth. Yeah. It turns out snails don't live that long. So this is Gary the Sixth. But this is our goal. We must be faster than a snail. So what are we doing to increase the speed of tunneling? As we got into it, we learned more and more about tunneling and why it takes a long time. First of all, in a given hour of tunneling, only about 10 minutes of the hour is spent actually digging. Then the other 50 minutes are spent erecting the tunnel reinforcements, laying down tracks, doing logistics, and a bunch of other stuff. So just automating the segment placement and solving the logistics issues will actually give you about a 5-fold increase in tunneling speed. It's like, and I mean, a lot of these things, like when you boil it down, it's not actually, it's hard to do. It's difficult engineering, but there's no Nobel Prize required here. It's work, but it's very solvable. The other thing that needs to happen is simultaneous drilling and tunnel reinforcing. So you need to be able to drill and reinforce at the same time. Right now, old tunneling machines drill, stop, do a bunch of reinforcements, then drill, stop, do a bunch of reinforcements. So the combination of automated segment placement and being able to drill while tunneling, like I said, is about a 5-fold increase in speed. Then with our design, we've also tripled the power of the drill. So it can drill 3 times faster. That results in a theoretical net speed increase of about 15 compared to the next best tunneling machine. So, and hopefully we'll beat our snail. So aspirationally, we should be slightly faster than a snail after doing those things. Yeah. Yeah. And there's some other things. We've modified the cutter design. The dirt removal is continuous. There are 2 lanes instead of 1 lane. But we're very confident of the engineering does close for achieving a 15x improvement. So, and a few other things that decrease the regulatory agencies that you have to satisfy. I mean, essentially, if you can tunnel here, you can tunnel anywhere. And we have three tunnel products. A municipality can get a big tunnel and then put water mains and electricity lines inside the tunnel, and then they can actually service, like if they had a water main break, instead of it flooding the main street in the city, they can actually go in and into the boring company tunnel and fix the water main. This is also very important because then you can intersperse the stations throughout the city and not dump a ton of traffic in one location. So by distributing, by having many stations, you ensure that people get closer to their destination and you don't disrupt the traffic pattern around where the loop exits. And then depending upon how much room you can have an elevator, which only takes up a few parking spaces. You can have like a spiral ramp or a long ramp. And then you combine that with fast, low-cost tunnels, and I think you've got a very exciting transport solution. Now, the thing about going 3D, as I was mentioning earlier, is that you can just keep expanding the number of tunnels. So one of the questions we're often asked is, well, sure, if you build this tunnel, then people will use it, and then it'll just get full, and then we'll be back to where we started, and it's like adding a lane on the freeway. You add the lane, but then the traffic expands to fully available volume. But the thing about going 3D is that you could have like you could have 16 tunnels going in the same direction. So you can have as many tunnels as you want. And I'm pretty sure everyone in the United States is not going to move to LA. But you could literally build enough tunnels to transport everyone in the United States in LA. There is no limit. This is very important. So the system can be improved and expanded indefinitely. And it's really about making transport 3D. And then also the way it works is there'll be a main artery for the tunnel which travels at 150 miles an hour. It's kind of like an underground highway. So if you think of, say, the way a subway works, a subway is like a bunch of stop streets. You keep stopping. So the average speed on a subway is typically, including stops, is about 10 miles an hour. But the way the loop would work is that you'd have main arteries that are traveling at 150 miles an hour, and only when you want to go to an exit would you have an off-ramp. So you can travel the vast majority of your journey without stopping at 150 miles an hour, and only slow down when you get to your exit. And then automatically transfer from one tunnel to another. It's like a 3D highway system underground, basically. It contains steel structures, and so in order to insert the elevator, all you do is dig a hole in the ground real fast, then bring the prefabricated elevator in sections, drop it down, connect the sections, and you're done. There's not like some extended construction project. I think that's also important, so that you don't have these like construction projects that disrupt the city all over the place. And I do want to say, like, this, we're in no way saying there shouldn't be other means of public transport, because we get like a lot of the public transport advocates like saying, well, you must hate other public transport. No, it's like, I say, like, let all transport, let us do everything we can along every direction to alleviate traffic, allow people to get home, get to work, and not spend hours on the road, whatever it takes. And this, I should say also, we will have continuously operating cars in the loop for those that do not have a car. So this will actually give priority to pedestrians and cyclists with cars that are continuously circulating in the loop. So even if you don't have a car, you can still use the system. I really want to emphasize that. These are the wheels that we were talking about. So this is really a small but very important element, is having retractable wheels that when you're driving down the road normally, they retract and go under the car, you don't even see them. But when you get into the tunnel, they deploy and allow you to go through a narrow tunnel very quickly, and effectively like a little train. So this even though it's like a small thing, it's a small but very important element of the technology. And this is something that can be applied to any autonomous EV. So to be clear, this is not intended to be restricted to a Tesla. Obviously, for convenience sake, I use a Tesla. Right, that'd be silly if I didn't. But this is not intended to be some sort of walled garden or just for Teslas or something like that. Any autonomous EV can be outfitted with these guide wheels. Yeah, and why autonomous? Well, it means you can go very, very fast and brake very quickly. Like, we expect that you can probably do one vehicle per second through the tunnel. Typically on a freeway, you can do, without autonomous vehicles, you can do a car every 2 seconds. But with autonomy, we think you can do a car at least every second. And with radar-based and vision-based braking, you can do so very safely. It's backwards compatible with the road system, which is important. And it can take you can literally go, I mean, you can think of these like, they're sort of like wormholes. It's just like you drop down the worm, like you're driving around, oh, I need to get to the other side of LA or New York or whatever, drop down the wormhole, pop out the other side, and then you can just drive normally. I mean, I think this is like really a panacea. As I was mentioning, elevators prefabricated. You can also do a passive spiral ramp. And you can install these anywhere: parking lots, garages, little alcoves. The elevator itself only takes as much as 2 parking spaces on the street. So if you just have a station in exchange for 2 parking spaces. But tunnels need to be cheap. Very important. And that's what I mean. That's basically the size of a station. So you can interleave these stations throughout cities, wherever there's a couple parking spaces or a little patch of road, pretty much anywhere. You can actually even have them come up in underground garages. And then one day it will connect to the Hyperloop. But that's for another time. And I mean, what I think this really amounts to is an actual solution to the soul-crushing burden of traffic. This is something that I think will actually work. It's scalable, and we have a demonstration tunnel here, and we expect to expand this over time to many cities all around the world, and give people more time for their friends and family. So, all right, company. So, all right. All right, go that way. Sorry, and that concludes our presentation. Thank you.